This is the second class on theoretical foundations of ethnographic fieldwork. In the first class on this section, which I took on 6 July, I tried to give some common methodological ground between Max Weber and Bronisław Malinowski. Today I will try to go a little deeper. What is the main theme of sociological enterprise or sociological analysis? We have two key terms, social facts and social actions. Now, what is the theoretical foundations of doing ethnographic fieldwork in case you want to study social facts of Immanuel Durkheim or social action of Max Weber or Talcott Parsons? Now, as you know, Immanuel Durkheim is regarded as a positivist social scientist, and he thinks that sociology should study social facts in the same way Newton studied physics. And he said that there is basically no difference between natural beings and human beings because both are part of the same nature. To the best of my mind, almost all major Marxist sociologists agree that Karl Marx was also a positivist, a scientist, like Newton or Durkheim. Therefore, there is lots of commonality between Durkheim and Karl Marx so far as their methodological and theoretical attitude towards society or social facts or social formations is concerned. But as I told you in first semester as well as in my previous classes, I mean previous introductory classes, that in the Marxist writings there are two types of writings. One is considered as early Marx, in the writings of Karl Marx. There are two types of writings. One is called early writings, which is supposed to be influenced by the philosophy of Hegel. But Immanuel Durkheim was certainly not influenced by Hegel. Therefore, there is no dialectics or dialectical method in Durkheim, although it is there in early writings of Karl Marx. Therefore, some people claim, and I agree with them, that theoretically Marx and Durkheim both are positivist, and both were influenced by Saint Simon and Isaac Newton. But at the level of methodology, and more so at the level of techniques, there are definite or decisive differences between Marx and Durkheim. What is the basic difference at the methodological level or technical level? Theoretical level, both are scientists, but method is a two-edged weapon. I have told you in first semester, and I have been telling you in earlier classes as well. There is a method to construct theory, number one, and then there is a method to do field work. Now the second, the method to do field work, to gather data, is related with techniques of social research. Therefore, at the level of technique, Marx is ambivalent. At the level of method, he tilts towards Hegelianism in the early writings, and in so-called mature writings or later writings, he is more influenced by British political economy. Now, this is what we taught you in the first semester. Now, let us come, what does it mean? Let us try to understand what does it mean when we say that in later writings, Marx and his academic followers are influenced by British political economy. Now, what is British political economy? A particular type of view developed by Adam Smith and David Hume, which consider that now market is much more important component of society or nation state than it used to be in the earlier decades and centuries. But how to study market? How political economists believed in this, or how they propagated it, or how they elucidated it in their empirical writings. More or less, the British political economists followed their method and technique from two people, and at least I did not mention their name in the course on sociological thinkers. Maybe in methodology of social sciences, you may have come across to these names. Now, the first name is that of John Locke. John Locke was born on 19th August 1632 and he died on 28th October 1704. He was a British philosopher, encyclopedic philosopher, who was influenced by Francis Bacon and Thomas Hobbes. He said he is considered an empiricist. There are two types of philosophical method before sociology emerged as a science. One is a rationalist method developed by Rene Descartes. It is Descartes, written Descartes but pronounced Descartes. He was born in France on 31st March 1596 and he died on 11th February 1650. He was born in France and he is regarded as the first modern philosopher of Europe. Rene Descartes of France is regarded as the first modern philosopher of Europe. And since Europe colonized the rest of the world, therefore you can say contemporary world, he is regarded as the first modern philosopher of contemporary world. He was born in France, also died in France. He influenced three important names who are important to us. Isaac Newton, the British theologian, Christian theologian, who is also regarded as a father of modern physics. And he also contributed significantly in the development of modern mathematics. Then Pascal. Pascal is regarded as a very interesting persona. I'll deal with him when I come to Roland Barthes, particularly post-structuralism in general. Pascal becomes very important for the post-structuralist because he had some innovative insights at the level of technique and method to study a particular social or psychological or cultural phenomena. The third name influenced by Rene Descartes for this course is Immanuel Durkheim. Immanuel Durkheim is a rationalist follower of Rene Descartes, although later on in his later writings he modified his rationalism, which we found in the first three books, The Division of Labor in Society, Rules of Sociological Method, and Les Suicide. These three books of Immanuel Durkheim are definitely influenced by Rene Descartes and Isaac Newton. Pascal is not important in the early three books, and he is definitely regarded as a neo-rationalist in sociology. Therefore, for Immanuel Durkheim, social facts should be studied as natural facts or physical facts, that is, as in hard sciences, and this he inherited from the first sociologists in the world, in the modern world, and his name is Sansimo and Auguste Comte. Sansimo and Auguste Comte. C-O-M-T. Sansimo is common between Marx and Durkheim, but Auguste Comte is influential more in the writings of Durkheim and French social scientists than in Karl Marx, because in Marx there is Sansimo and Hegel, and in the case of Durkheim, it is Rene Descartes, Sansimo, and Auguste Comte. The third person in Marx will be Adam Smith, if we take Capital and other writings which he wrote in the second part of his career. Therefore, we have two equations between Marx and Durkheim. At first level, Isaac Newton is common between both Durkheim and Marx. But Rene Descartes is not important in Marx, he is important in Durkheim. Then Saint Simon or Saint Simo, like Newton, is common between both Marx and Durkheim. At the third level, Durkheim is influenced by Auguste Comte more profoundly, but the influence of Auguste Comte in Karl Marx is marginal or limited. It is limited to, for example, Auguste Comte discusses the law of three stages of development. On the same lines, Durkheim developed mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. This is side one, and now in side two, Karl Marx is also influenced by the law of three stages, and he discusses 5 stages of development. And what are these 5 stages of developments in Karl Marx? The first is called primitive communism. The second is called ancient society, or third is called Oriental despotism. In original writings of Marx it is there, but contemporary Marxists are a little ashamed of accepting it, that Marx was as much Orientalist as any other colonial academic was. He had a concept of, Oriental despotism. And what is Oriental despotism? It is a term which you find in many authors of Europe: savagery, barbarism, civilization. Therefore, for Marx, primitive communism is savagery, ancient society is barbarism, and so is Oriental despotism. Therefore, we have 3 concepts, but not vertically. Vertically, we have primitive communism, number 1. Number 2, we have ancient society, and ancient society is equated with Oriental despotism. Therefore, although there are 3 concepts, but vertically there are only 2 stages. 2 stages, primitive communism and ancient society, because Oriental despotism is equated with ancient society. And then third, feudalism. Fourth, capitalism. And then there is a concept of fifth, communism or socialism. Therefore, this classification or these stages of development is not from Hegel so much as it is from Auguste Comte's concept of the law of three stages. But besides this, Marx is more influenced by Hegel, and there is no influence of Hegel in Durkheim. Now, the last influence on Durkheim is Auguste Comte, definitely, but Karl Marx is at a later stage influenced by Adam Smith and David Hume. Adam Smith and David Hume. Now, at a commonsensical level, Adam Smith is regarded as the father of political economy, and David Hume is regarded as the most important British philosopher. But that is an understanding which is a little dated. Today, contemporary scholars of Scottish Enlightenment regard David Hume as the real founding father of political economy, and Adam Smith is regarded as a popular author of political economy, but he is primarily regarded as an aesthetic philosopher or moral philosopher of Scottish Enlightenment. Are you getting the point? Now, let us try to deconstruct or decipher what type of methodological light the political economists David Hume and Adam Smith said on the topic of culture. How a student who is trying to study culture can find methodological insight in David Hume and Adam Smith? I will say that basically there are three important insights which we can get from these two important Scottish philosophers. David Hume, for example, has written a book which is an essay on a study of natural religions. And second, he has written a book which is related with the nature of man. And then, as you know, Adam Smith had written many books, but the most important or most popular is The Wealth of Nations. Now, the relationship between David Hume and Adam Smith is more or less of the same type which we find in the case of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. They worked as a team. They were not only the best of friends, but they were also the best of academic collaborators. Marx and Engels were great friends and collaborators. And the second team which we find is, between the uncle and the nephew, Immanuel Durkheim and Marcel Mauss. This combo, two people working together as a very close circle of friends and collaborators, began not with Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, but a little earlier in England between David Hume and Adam Smith. Now, what is interesting in the writings of these two scholars is, some sort of revival of paganism. Pagan. It is written pagan, but pronounced pagan. Therefore, we find some sort of revival of paganism in British political economy, at least in the writings of two seminal scholars, David Hume and Adam Smith. Now, let us come to the question of method in philosophy. Rene Descartes said that the old method of Aristotle and Plato, which is known as deductive philosophical method, is not sufficient for the modern world or contemporary world. Now, what is a deductive method? I will just give an example because this is something which is usually taught in sociology at the undergraduate level. And it is part of methodology of social sciences. But since we have another course, techniques of social research, and sometimes there is no dialogue between the three teachers who teach theory or thinkers and method and technique. As a result, there is some gray areas which is not covered by any of the teachers because they suppose others must have covered it. But since this is a small class, we have the luxury of revisiting the old things which you must have read in your undergraduation. I'm giving you an example of deductive logic. Ram is mortal. Muhammad is mortal. Jesus is mortal. And all these three people are men. Therefore, man is mortal. This is an example of inductive logic which Rene Descartes gave. Ram is mortal, Muhammad is mortal, Jesus is mortal, Moses is mortal, Amit Sharma is mortal. Immense Nivas is mortal. Zakir Hussain is mortal. Jawaharlal Nehru is mortal. And these are human beings. Therefore, we can conclude that man is mortal. This is inductive logic. Now, the first sentence, Ram is mortal, Muhammad is mortal, Amit Sharma is mortal, or Emin Srinivas is mortal, or Talcott Parsons is mortal. These are called data. What is data? It is plural of datum. Ram is mortal, it is datum. But when we are giving examples in plural, 5 people are mortal. And where we find this? In the empirical field, in the ethnographic village, in the ethnographic city. That, a person who is born also dies. Therefore, empirically we study this. Empirically we study this, that a particular person called Amit Sharma or Talcott Parsons or August Comte or Karl Barth or Immanuel Durkheim or Ram or Muhammad or Jesus, they are mortal. We find this in history books. We find this in Wikipedia. We find this also in our village, which we study, and town. Okay? Therefore, this is the datum, and together these are data. And we compare and contrast. And then we find what is common between all these people, that they are man or human beings. And therefore, the conclusion, man is mortal, is dependent upon our empirical verification. Empirical verification that human beings in different spaces and different time are mortal. Got it? Now, what was the earlier method of Plato and Aristotle? It was called deductive logic. Rene Descartes says it is not sufficient today. In modern world, it is dated, it is irrelevant, it is outdated. It must be revised. What was the earlier method? Man is mortal. Man is mortal. From where we got this first sentence? Not from empirical study. We got it from our grandmother. Our grandmother narrated the story when we were children. And then our religious texts, the sacred scriptures say that man is mortal. Or our grandmothers tell that man is mortal. Are you getting the point? We are not taking the first sentence of the logic from empirical experience. Rather, we are taking it from tradition. We are taking it from tradition, pre-existing intellectual heritage or culture. Culture is supplying the first sentence or major premise. The first sentence is major premise that man is mortal, and then it gives an example that Ram is a man. Ram is a man. And then conclusion becomes mechanical, automatic, that Ram is mortal. This was deductive logic, where fieldwork had a very small place. Because the major premise of our understanding came from cultural tradition of which we were part, in which we were born, brought up or trained. Got it? And in the first class, I said, bus full hai, bus is full. In the same way, I am giving you two examples. Man is mortal, Ram is a man, therefore Ram is mortal. This is an example of deductive logic. This is an example of deductive logic. And Rene Descartes said, no, this is not sufficient. But what he did? What he did? He gave another example. What was the first example? Man is mortal. First sentence. Major premise, minor premise, Ram is a man. And then conclusion. Therefore, Ram is mortal. Now he just reversed it and said it is modern. And what he said? Ram is mortal. I have seen him dying. Ram is mortal or David is mortal. I have seen him dying. When he died, I was, in the hospital or in the village or in the family. I have seen that Ram has died. Now he can also say, I have seen him taking birth. Suppose Rene Descartes has a long life, which he had. He was born in 1596 and died in 1650. He had a life of 54 years. And he saw that Ram was born when he was 10 years old. And Ram died before he died. Therefore, he is saying, he just reversed it. In the first Aristotelian or Plato's deductive logic, man is mortal, Ram is a man, Ram is mortal. Now he said, Ram is mortal, Ram is a man, therefore man is mortal. Got it? This is modern, and the other was traditional. Now let us come to the point. Rene Descartes gives this example, but he says, the middle premise, he had seen Ram taking birth and Ram dying. Therefore, this is empirically established. But the middle premise is not empirically established, that Ram is a man. Empirically, you cannot study manness in Ram or Jesus. This association of an individual called Ram and manness is supplied by culture. It is a priori. It pre-exists before our empirical observation. Got it? Now there was a person called John Locke who said that Mr. Rene Descartes, you are not a modern person. You are only modern in appearance. You are basically a traditional person who had put on a modern dress. In the tradition, the major premise is taken from culture a priori, and in your rationalism, you are taking the middle premise from culture as a priori. And conclusion is, in both the cases, predetermined. Therefore, John Locke proposed a radical empirical method who was not ready to believe on the cultural heritage or the scientific heritage. Rather, it was adamant that it will not recognize anything as valid knowledge unless and until it is rooted in our experience, sense experience. We have how many sense organs? Therefore, what is, empirical knowledge for Locke? Which comes through our five sense organs. Got it? Now I am asking again, please name these five sense organs. Name. Nobody is telling anything. Just name these five sense organs. Nobody. Google कर लो. गूगल बाबा से पूछो ना भाई. I am not asking about type of experience. Organs are eye, ear, tongue. What are other two? Nose and skin. Now, what about brain or mind? It is not a sense organ. It is not a sense organ. Rene Descartes said that, John Locke, you are not talking sense. You are talking nonsense. Because these five sense organs are part of the body. What about mind? What about mind? Therefore, Rene Descartes said that there is a mind and body dualism. There is a mind and body dualism. Now, how Immanuel Kant's writing is influenced by Rene Descartes? Mind-body dualism is represented in the writings of Immanuel Kant by sacred and profane. Sacred is mind. profane is body. Body can be seen, it can be touched, body has got smell, it can be heard. But what about mind? How to study mind of the society? Rene Descartes said, by following the rationalist method, and this rationalist method was made sophisticated by Isaac Newton and Pascal. Got it? Mind-body dualism is represented in the writings of Immanuel Kant by the concepts of sacred and profane. How simple it is. Sacred is mind, profane is body. But what is lacking is the heart. What is lacking is the heart. This was raised by a person called Pascal. Where heart is located? Where heart is located? Heart is not located in the left side of your chest. This is just a pump for transmitting the blood throughout the body. What is the Hindi term for heart? Dil. Dil will pyar मैं क्या जानू रे. What is this called dil? This is not this heart, this anatomical heart, rather this is our left brain. The right brain is mind and the left brain is heart. And where the brain is located? In the back side of our head. Now tell me, how many teachers taught you about these things of Immanuel Kant or even functionalism? Therefore I say, students never fail, only teachers fail to teach. There are not good or bad students, there are good and bad teachers. Good means normal, bad means pathological. Now, time is coming to an end. Therefore, let us come to Max Weber now. In what way Max Weber is different from Immanuel Kant or Karl Marx? Max Weber, I am not an admirer of Max Weber. I am an admirer of Buddhist sociology. In my personal life, in my professional life, I am influenced by structuralism and post-structuralism, which is rooted in Humean sociology. But it doesn't mean that I do not read Max Weber or I do not appreciate him. The only thing is that the man was full of insight, but he was a very poor writer. Some people are great scholars, profound scholars, but they are not profound writers. And then he wrote in German, and all his sociological works were written when he retired from academic positions and when he retired from, politics. Therefore, all his major writings in sociology are, contemplative research. Contemplative research. It is like a book which Immanuel Kant wrote at the fag end of his career, The Remembered Village. I think, I have shared, 5 small pieces in Hindi, and I differentiate between information, knowledge, and wisdom. So far as knowledge is concerned, Max Weber is a very ordinary scholar. But at the level of information and wisdom, I regard him as a great person. But in sociology, people do not discuss of wisdom. They discuss about knowledge. And please make a note. Knowledge is only theoretical. There is no possibility of non-theoretical or empirical knowledge. Knowledge is only theoretical. Otherwise, it is information, experience, or wisdom. And they are different, they are not superior or inferior. Are you getting the point? Max Weber is not a scientist, he is an artist. Because politics is an art. And he was primarily a politician. And he was a good politician, he was a good artist. Durkheim was a scientist. In Marx, you have both science and wisdom, but art is not there in Marx. And to understand art in sociology, the best book is Transformation of Nature in Art by Anand Kentish Kumar Sharma. I think it is part of your syllabus. For example, medicine is not a science, it is an art. Some people argue, no, it is a science. Then I will say that making, vaccine or making medicine is a science. But diagnosing a disease is an art. Prescribing a tablet or capsule is an art. Are you getting the point? We will, continue this discussion about science and art in our next class, and the title of it will be the 2 terms introduced by Immanuel Kant, namely noumena and phenomena. Noumena, Noumena, Noumena means, it is a German term. Noumena means reality as it is. Noumena means reality as it is. And phenomena means reality as it appears to us as human beings. Reality as it appears to us as human beings. And who introduced this concept, these concepts, both concepts? A German philosopher whose name was Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant. And he was born on 22nd April 1724 and he died on 12th February 1804. 1804. And Immanuel Kant is regarded in philosophy in the same way in which Copernicus is regarded in science. Therefore, we have Copernican revolution in science and Kantian revolution in philosophy. Kantian revolution in philosophy. And what is the philosophy of Kant? Rene Descartes' philosophy is known as rationalism. John Locke's philosophy is known as empiricism. And what is the philosophy of Immanuel Kant? Theoretically, it is transcendental philosophy, but methodologically, it is phenomenology. Phenomenology. And who are important phenomenologists in social sciences? Husserl, 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 Weber, Sutter, Alfred Sutter. And the followers are Peter Berger, Thomas Luckman, even Garfinkel is influenced by phenomenology. Are you getting the point? What Kant says that we cannot study reality as it is by following modern theory, method or technique. We cannot study reality as it is by following modern method, modern theory, modern technique or modern scientific paradigm. We can only study phenomena, not noumena. We cannot study noumena or reality as it is, rather we can study reality as it appears to us as human beings. He called this phenomena, phenomenal world. We can study phenomenal world. We can study phenomena called social facts or social action. We cannot study noumena called social facts and social action. Is it clear to all of you? This is technical and boring, isn't it? It may be technical and boring, but it is useful. It may be technical and boring, but it is useful. It is something which can really empower you in the market, including the job market, in the state, in the society, both civil and military. Anything which is healthy may not be necessarily tasty. For example, there are certain habits, for example, rising early and going to bed early. It is very uncommon in contemporary life, but in case you rise early and go to bed early, you have a different experience. Therefore, your experience is determined by your cultural or scientific habits, about which Weber wrote in vocational lectures. My 5 pieces are reflection on vocational lectures of Max Weber and the book Professional Ethics and Civic Morals. After reading these 2 pieces, I spoke and recorded my 5 small pieces, and I know that most of you have not understood it, although you may have listened it 1 time or 2 times. But in case in case you read these two books and then you listen me, then it will make a lot of more sense. Thank you for today.